Hello, welcome back to City Planner Plays, where we are playing Cities Skylines II, and I could not be more excited to share this game with you today. When you have the newest, most powerful city simulator on the planet months before it releases, you've got to do something big, which is why we are going to be recreating a small town in Ohio. No, please don't leave. I promise this will be really interesting. It's a master planned community with a unique roadway layout that would have been absolutely impossible in Cities Skylines 1 without a number of mods. But it's not just possible, but incredibly fun to build and recreate in Cities Skylines 2. But here's the rub. I'm not going to tell you what city I'm building until my final video in this series, unless someone guesses it in the comments. So subscribe so you don't miss the series, drop your guesses in the comments, and why not hit the like button while you're down there for the sake of engagement. Today, we'll build until we reach the Grand Village milestone, and in subsequent videos, we'll continue to grow and improve the city until it's a thriving metropolis. And along the way, I'll give you my thoughts about the gameplay, the good, the bad, and interesting observations along the way. And at the end, I'll give you my honest opinion and let you know how I feel about the game. But as a reminder, the game is still in beta and there are bugs, but we are a couple of months out from release, so that's kind of to be expected. So I'll reserve judgment about things that aren't quite working just yet, such as night lighting, fall foliage, and snow on buildings, as well as game performance, which is still being optimized and improved. But as we get nearer to release, we'll definitely talk about those things, and after release, I will test the game on a variety of systems to give you an idea of whether or not your system can handle the game or not. But enough preamble, I can't wait to get building. So let's kick things off by building our basic infrastructure. And here we are in Moundsville, and we're going to be building on the Twin Mountain map, which I've played most of the maps, and this one is honestly my favorite, but there are really no bad maps in Cities Skylines 2. That said, I have made a couple of changes. This is mostly flat, and that's because I have flattened it using the landscaping menu. And I've done this because there is no contour view in this game. It's really difficult to build on slopes. I'm not really sure why they made this decision, because it makes it next to impossible to build on more challenging terrain. It's almost made up for by how excellent the road building tools are. And that's what we're gonna be focusing on right now. I'm gonna be building the layout of this community and point out a couple of things along the way. First of all, I really love the outline that we have here. That was present in Cities Skylines, but not quite as prominent. And it just makes it really easy to figure out what your grid is going to look like. That said, we don't have units, which is kind of a strange decision. I hope that that one's reversed as well. Down here, there's a ton of snapping options, and in Cities Skylines 2, you're gonna have to get really familiar with them if you want to not break your grids. Now, I'm gonna build our central square right here, and I've really gone through, even though this is inspired by a real city master plan, I've had to take a couple of liberties because I wanna fit some of the assets, but this is an area that I think is gonna be really interesting. So this is gonna be our central plaza, and we're going to throw in a few of our new pathways. You have a couple of options here. You can see that now we're getting our first view of the snapping options. So I'm snapping to the edge of the road here. You can snap to the middle, or you can snap to the other edge. So this is a really nice feature, particularly when you're building roads, because it gives you different options to offset the roads. But it also means that if you aren't careful, your measurements can be off, and not having units makes this even more challenging. So here's from sidewalk to sidewalk, it's 131 meters. If I go from center to center, it's 144 meters. So you're gonna have to be really thoughtful about your designs here. The other thing is, depending on where you get this, with sidewalks in particular, you can end up not making a crossing. Like right there, crossing on the bottom, not on the top. I can come back over the top and add that crossing if I wanted. Now I wanted to add these sidewalks because we're gonna do something really unique with the roads. On this side, I want there to be kind of a wider park-like area. And I have all of my snap twos on, but here's where I start to think about turning them off. So we have all of these different ways that you can snap to things. You can snap to existing geometry. I'm gonna turn that one off for now because we have guidelines and that might be more useful for us. And then we have snapping to zone cell length. If you don't want to break your grid, this is probably something you want to keep on. And then we have snap to zone grid, which can be useful if you want to keep things at nice angles that make sense. We have 90-degree angles, that's pretty straightforward. And then snapping to the sides of buildings, which is new. So this is one that can be really helpful if you want to snap a road or a path directly on the side of a building. If I turn snap to the sides of the building off, I don't snap to the sides of the road anymore. And turning that off can be helpful because it standardizes your measurements a little bit. So that's why I'm doing that. That's the main reason. But here's where I'm going to turn it back on. I really want to center on this sidewalk. Now, I want to create a bit of a half circle here, so we're going to use our curve road tool. I'm going to create a guideline for myself just because I think it makes it a little bit easier, and then we'll use our curved road tool. And now I'm going to use the replace tool for the first time, and this is a way that you can try to replace an existing roadway. Look at the level of flexibility you have with it. So I have this flexibility because I'm not snapping to existing geometry. I will want to do that, When I have that set though, and all my snap twos on, you can see that I can't snap it to the center. And that's because I have snapping to cell length on. So I turn that off and I can snap right to the middle and send this right down the center. Here's where I say the road building tools might be better than Anarchy and Cities Skylines. So these two roads are not the same length. I want them to completely line up. I'm just going to extend this one out, and now I can just cut straight through here. I've got my little angle in the corner to show that it's a 90, goes straight through, and I can just delete this. Now the reason why I wanted to create this area is because we're going to be making a park space through here, and I want to plant the trees very early. And that's because they take what feels like forever to grow. So we're going to plant our trees right away. This tool is going to be very polarizing. So the bounds around it are really large. So you plant all trees when they're very small, and they're giving you this space that you must maintain clearance of for when the tree is large. So it can be really frustrating. And if you encroach, it just gets rid of the other tree. So I really hope that this is refined, that this radius is narrowed down. And I will admit to being a little disappointed that we aren't getting a line tool in this game. To me, that was kind of a gimme, an easy one. That would have been a nice thing to implement, but it's not in there. This will be one of the first mods I pick up. You aren't quite as constrained with bushes because they don't grow. So I can place these and overlap them a little bit. So if you're a big detailer, this is not all bad news. That said, on the note of detailing, there are no decals and there are no props. So I'm hoping that that's improved down the line as well, but it's certainly something that we don't have. Let's say you want to know what tree you planted over here. You went and you forgot what you have. You can click on the tree now and it tells you what tree it is. Wow, can you even rename this? You can rename a tree. That's awesome. But now that I've clicked on this, I know that this is a linden tree and I can plant even more. Now let's finish our roadway layout quickly so we can get to building. Now I want to show you one of my favorite new features about this new road tool. So I have this angle here. I could come in just at a nice, boring, old 45-degree angle, but I want to do something special. So I'm coming in with my curved road tool. I've got my guidelines on. I get that little square so I can see that it's a 90. And now I have the guideline to show that I'm lining up with this road. So I'm going to hit the curved road tool here. And now I can pull this into this road. And you can see I can really adjust that angle and come up with something special. And you might think, it's going to be impossible to connect this road in. Would you believe that? Like that is outstanding. That is so cool. I'm going to cross over the river to build a little industrial area. Now I want to build a bridge across the river, and our elevation tools are so fine grained. I love this. I can go up 1.25 meters, which is just awesome. It's almost like having Anarchy. And now I think we're ready to place our power plant. And I really want this to be able to feed the outside connection so that we get some money back for this. And there are a number of things I'm doing differently with money in Cities Skylines 2 than I did in Cities Skylines. And the very first thing is I'm building a whole bunch of roads up front. The roads are really inexpensive, and you might have noticed that I'm not using dirt roads. The dirt roads are 1U roads, so they're difficult to work with. So that's why I'm using these. The other thing is I'm going to build a bunch of infrastructure up front because we can sell things to outside connections. We'll need a sewage outlet, and I can see that the water is flowing this way. So I'm going to place this right about here. So I'm going to place the water pumping station probably down here. Oh, and I've already reached Tiny Village before I've done anything. You will level up just by building things. That can be helpful because I need the money because I've just been laying a ton of infrastructure. And that should be all that we need to get this thing going. We should start selling some of our power. That happens automatically, and we'll immediately start exporting it to the rest of the region. Now that we have our roads and our basic infrastructure, let's start zoning. Before we begin zoning, I just want to point out the way our zoning demand meter works. It's totally dynamic, and as I place zone it, you're going to see it respond basically in real time. We also have a couple of different categories to fulfill right now. More, I think, will be added in the future as they unlock. But we have low density residential, medium density residential, commercial, and industrial. Now, the two residential demand categories will not fulfill each other. So as I zone in some residential to lower density residential, it's not going to lower the medium density residential meter, which I think is a really interesting feature. Let's start zoning some of that residential. And then I want to have medium density along this corridor. It's a pretty major road, so we'll just go right over the top of this. And then why don't we add a bit of commercial through here as well, some neighborhood commercial. And you can see that demand soaking up right away. I think that is so cool. So let's turn our attention to this area and start fulfilling some of that industrial need. We've also got to add a garbage management facility, and I think I'm going to buy a tile for the first time. So we'll click on this and we'll purchase that tile. And I'm a little concerned that this is a cul-de-sac right now. We'll fix that in the future. But I think that we're going to need more capacity coming into this area because it is an industrial area. So before all these buildings come in, I'm just going to upgrade this, which will, for better or for worse, break some of our grid over here. It's just kind of a thing that happens sometimes in Cities Skylines II. And then we'll run this arterial along the side of this here. So we'll place our landfill over here. I'll start out with a fairly large district. I'll go big right off the bat. And I have snapping to the road on down here in my snapping. So it snaps to the road, which makes it super easy to figure out where this should go. And there we go. We've got a functional garbage facility. Lovely. So here's the thing. We've got this little happiness meter down here. Absolutely pay attention to this all the time. More than the citizens, more than Chirper, this should be your guide. So let's add a medical clinic, and I think I'll add that maybe right about here. Some of these facilities can have sub-buildings that you'll want to add on in the future, and the last thing you want to do is prevent yourself from doing that. They must be attached to that main building, so I have left myself enough space. I'm not sure that I'm going to love the layout necessarily, but this will work. And then we also need death care, and I think I'm going to place that over here, maybe even on this main road. And you can see that our happiness down here is improved. Everyone loves their spacious homes, their wealth. Everything's going well except for our budget. We'll have to sort that out. I'm going to extend our grid over a couple of blocks. And I wanted to do that because I actually want to relocate this cemetery to the other side of this road. And I know that this road is going to exist. And interestingly, it's High Street, which makes sense because it's going straight up a hill and we couldn't tell. So let's move the cemetery, which is very simple. There's no arbitrary limitation there. We just go to the relocate building button and then we just pull it over here and plop it down. Obviously, we're carving into the hillside. We'll go into our landscaping menu and try to terraform this away. The terraforming tools are outstanding this time around. This new terrain tool is almost like having the extra landscaping options built in. So now we should be able to just level this out. And then I want to soften this and I can adjust this. Look at this, 5% at a time. And I can decrease the brush size 10 at a time. And that's just outstanding. The thing is, I just need the contour view. So if someone's listening at Colossal Order, please, contour view. We desperately need it. That's something that I would have never imagined to be missing from the game. I want to do something interesting up here. We have this parallel road now, and I want to basically tee into this, and we'll have this be a bypass eventually. So we have this new parallel road tool. So we just toggle this and our one way, and we should be able to simply create a road along here. We can either increase or decrease the offset and get this to be basically perfect for us. Now, obviously this didn't turn out quite as I was hoping. So I'm going to convert this to be a 2-lane road. That was more in line with what I was thinking. And then over here, it's actually offset in an awkward manner. You can go ahead and convert this to a 1-unit road and then swap it out with a 2-unit road and get this thing to shift over, which I think is super cool. The terrain though, this is real bad. We'll try to fix this. So this will bring me to an interesting place. The way that you reverse roads now is different in Cities Skylines 2 than it was in Cities Skylines 1. So let's say I place this road here and it's going in the wrong direction and I want to reverse it. I can't just right mouse click it to invert it. You actually have to draw it backwards. It's fine on straight segments. I've really struggled in segments where I have curves. So I'm hoping that it gets easier for me or that the functionality changes, but that's just something that I've noticed. so far. So what we really need right now is more commercial and more industrial. Those should be fairly easy within the zoning grid that we've created. I'm just going to extend this out. You might wonder why I'm not using the grid tool. It has a lot of promise, but the problem with it is that you can't really control the way it works. So I can't get the exact grid that I want. So as a result, I just basically have not been using it. I hope that I get better at it, or that honestly, what I think would make it perfect is if you could actually set what you want your grid to be. But without that, I will probably not use the tool all that often. And you can see in real time, all of that industrial that I placed is sapping the demand, and I love that. Now for this area, I'm not adding anything here because this is where City Hall is gonna go eventually once we unlock that. And I wanna have some more high density residential up here and over here. So most of our commercial is gonna be up in this area that we haven't built yet. So I'm gonna extend our roads out just a little ways. And that is so pleasant to be able to do that. It's so easy to create guidelines and just go back and forth with them. Absolutely love it. So we're going to add in a bunch of our commercial up here, and we will hit small village. Let's take a look at our progression panel to see what's going on in here. And we are unlocking a whole bunch of stuff, including our schools now. We're also getting more expansion permits, and I really want to stretch out to the edge of the map so we can connect our water and hopefully figure out our budget soon. So right away, let's buy a bunch of tiles. And I basically want to reach to the edge of the map as quickly as I can. We have 6 available. I'll purchase these. We're 3 away from the edge of the map, so our next milestone should get us there. And you can see right here, happiness is okay, but people want schools. So let's add some schools. We'll add an elementary school, and I'm thinking that maybe we'll just place that right about here. And now that we've placed that elementary school, let's add on to it. And you can see as soon as we click on it, we can upgrade a couple of things, but absolutely we want to add a playground. So I'll place that right about there. Now I want to add our high school, and I'm thinking that we're going to place that right about here. I'm going to add a road in, and then we'll place down our high school. Now, one interesting thing I want to point out right away, you can see that this area needs the road, but this area needs a road as well. This is such a cool addition. I really, really love this. The other thing is I can snap to the side of the building. You can see I'm actually snapping to the side of the high school. So I think that this is a really outstanding addition. Really, really like this. I actually don't want that there though. So I don't want to snap this here. I'm going to curve around and do something that I think is going to be really neat. So it will extend out a little ways, and now I can add a roundabout here, and I could have this as a turnaround and just kind of call it a day, but I think we'll do something different. Now we can kind of curve around the school and maybe create a new neighborhood back here. Clicking on the high school, we can see that there are a number of things that we can add: an extension wing, a library, and a sports field. So this has to be attached. I'm going to shift this over knowing that we have this hill here, and we've got that right there. Now, one of the cool things about Cities Skylines II is it kind of has Move It built into it. So let's say I'm not satisfied with this location. I can actually relocate this. I can pull this wherever I want. I can turn off snapping and rotate this thing around. It will even let me place it if it doesn't have road access. It'll just warn me that a road is required for this facility. I'm not going to relocate it because I like this location, but that is something that you absolutely could do. And now let's quickly put down some of this demand, and I have a feeling we are going to level fairly rapidly after we do this. And as we are placing all the zoning, we got our first signature building available. It is a rock musician mansion. So a famous rock star lives here when not on tour, so we're gonna have to place that. That's a really cool building. And one of the things I really want to do is try to improve the zoning right here. It's a little bit broken up, so I am going to grab a path. We don't have fences or anything like that, so I'm going to change the directionality of the zoning. I'm sure there'll be a better way to do this in the future, but you can see right now adding that path has helped me kind of improve that. And you see that even though this is a little bit odd to have another sidewalk here, it does straighten out your zoning. And ultimately, if we're not going to have fences or the zoning toggle, this is a good temporary solution. And here we've reached a large village. We look at our progression panel. We get farming, we get mining, fire and rescue, police station, all things that we're going to need, and loans. Of course, we've got loans. Haven't done much with those. And then we have expansion permits, which we desperately need. And now that we have more of our expansion permits, I really think we need to extend out to the map edge so that we can sell our water and sewage and hopefully bridge our money gap. So I'll buy these 3, and now we are out to the outside world. So we should be able to just connect up a pipe. all the way out here. So that immediately becomes a outside connection. And you can see that now that we've done that, we are actually exporting water. We're not exporting sewage, and my guess is that's because we only have the drain pipe, so we wouldn't want to dump unlimited raw sewage into our river. Now we do need to place our police and fire services, and I think that will continue to expand around this area. So I'll place a fire station right about here. And for police, I'll place that on this side, and I'll take out a whole bunch of buildings. And that immediately brings back demand as our citizens are happier. High crimes was the biggest issue here, so we have a -13 for that. Now, I don't want to overreact. I could add more patrol cars, but they've got to go ahead and arrest people and figure out exactly how that's all working, so it will take a little while to straighten that all out. I do want to see if we can purchase some things within our progression menu now. So we'll go into our development trees, and there's a couple of things I know I want right away. Advanced road services allows us to place trees in our terrace. And within the police and administration menu, I want to go for City Hall. And let's place these. These are the reason why we built this little square right here. So the first thing we'll place is the welfare office. That fits like a glove right here. And then we don't have enough for City Hall. We're just going to have to wait until we have more funds available. We could attempt to take out a loan, but I just think it's probably not the smartest thing to do right now. In fact, if we were to bump this up to what we would need, which is probably about 700,000, first of all, we can't go that high. And second of all, 20% interest rate, which is extortion. So we won't do that. And let's place some of those new signature buildings. I think that the Rock Musician Mansion would be a good one. We'll place that right about there. And then our big need now is row housing. So we'll place some of that as well. And then I want to place some of our first medium density housing as well. We'll place that behind the welfare office. And I think because of all the row housing that we just placed, we may have sapped all of that demand, but it will come back eventually. It'll just remain vacant. Even if we have single family residential demand, watch this. I'll place these. These aren't doing much of anything. And you see this is filling in basically immediately. Although we now have one of our first medium density buildings over here. Awesome, 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 awesome. Now I do want to modify things in this area. I was thinking of this as a commercial corridor. So we'll send that up and down here. And again, we've got some messy zoning. And I'm curious, if I upgrade this, that doesn't change anything. But what if I draw right over the top of it? That does fix my zoning. So maybe that's the way that we do it. And we've reached Grand Village by placing that road, apparently. And that gets us $1 million so we can get our City Hall. But before we place our City Hall, let's continue to finish what we were working on. And I'll show you what it looks like when you rezone things. And it gives you a bit of time to change your mind. So if I didn't want to change this, I could certainly go back in and change my mind, add the zoning back in, and now those are not unhappy. The next thing I want to do is convert this into a pedestrian area. And one of the fun things that I found is that if you convert all the way around a roundabout, you get a pedestrian roundabout, a little plaza area, which I think is super cool. Then we'll use a bit of eminent domain to fit our new road in. Thank you for your house, and I'm very sorry. And now we're ready for City Hall. We finally got it. It's in our police and administration menu, and this fits perfectly. We'll place that right here. And of course, I'd want City Hall. I'm a planner. One of the really fun things is that you can actually upgrade the City Hall to have a special city planning office where you can actually decrease the cost of leveling buildings. That said, we don't have the money for that. We're bleeding money right now, and we spent a whole bunch of money on City Hall. And as a result, we've got to increase the taxes on everyone to make up the difference. So we'll click on this and go into our taxation menu, and you can see 10% is our default. You can actually bump this up considerably, and people will be unhappy about it, but they won't leave. So we will do that. But that has done a lot to really bridge that gap. And I've let this run for just a little while, and you can see that the budget is starting to balance itself out. We're making some money. Things are looking good. The only thing that we are struggling with is entertainment, and that's really having the right types of commercial amenities available in residential areas, and also parks and recreation. So by default, we don't have a lot available to us. We've got some small parks and plazas and things of that nature, and a dog park, but everyone loves a dog park. So obviously we've got to add one of these. Oh, they all love that. And then why don't we add a small playground somewhere as well? I really like to throw these in little tiny areas like this one. It's a 2x2 space, really tiny. We'll just add that right there, and that'll improve the entertainment value for some of these homes. And you can see as we hover over, they love life. They have entertainment, they have education, they've got a little bit of everything. And the very last thing I want to do is look at some of those road options that we unlocked. So coming into our roads menu, we now have road services available to us, and we can do two things. We can either add a row of trees, and you can actually drag this along the road and it will add it to one side alone. And then we can add a grassy terrace as well. So the one thing that's kind of weird about this is if you add the trees, they'll just go right in the cement. I wish that it would add both the terrace and the trees at the same time, but that isn't the way it works. But I love that it adds it to only one side of the road at a time. That is the way it works in reality as well. And then if you want to remove that, you just use the right mouse button and you can just click over the top and it gets rid of it. Now this does get rid of parking when you add in some of these terrace features, and I really like that as well. There's always that push and pull, give and take within the right of way, and Cities Skylines is really making you think about that. That's a level of detail that's amazing. You can also add and remove street lighting as well, add traffic signals, stop signs, even crosswalks, and the road maintenance depot. So lots of different things that you can do, and I really, really like that. There's so much flexibility with this. It's one of the very first things I would unlock every single time. And our time is winding down for today, but I did want to detail the build. So I spent about 30 minutes off camera doing so, and I want to show you what I've done with a brief city tour. So if it wasn't obvious already, I really, really, really love Cities Skylines 2. This is easily my favorite game, and it's not even done yet. I love the way the tools work, I love the way the graphics look, and I love how large everything feels in the game. It feels like you can create a mega region in here, and I love that. Now, the things that bother me that I've mentioned, like the lack of contour lines, the way that the trees work where you can't overlap them. The reason I mention those is because this is going to be a game that I play for a decade, and I really want to see those things fixed, and I'd love it to be in the base game, not as part of a mod. So we'll see if those things come. You got to remember that in Cities Skylines 1, a couple months in, all the European maps and buildings were added for free. And over the years, there have been so many great free updates, and I fully expect that some of these things will be added into this game as well over time. But the foundation is here for this to be an absolutely outstanding game. And if you love Cities Skylines 1, I believe that you're going to love Cities Skylines 2 as well. And I hope that you've enjoyed this one. If you did, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so, especially if you want to catch the next episode where we continue to expand this city. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care. Bye-bye.